Hello and welcome to Needing a Meeting. My name is Carol. I'll be your host today. How's everybody doing today? And I have with me here in the studio, I have Ben and I have Tara smiling. Hi, guys.
Hey, everyone.
Jenna G, Sandy Wandy, Cosmic Christie, Tamber June. You know what? Welcome. Thank you for showing up and from the lifeboat. And hey, Plant Fruit, Mr. Melinda. Jennifer Linke, hello. Good to see you guys. So I thought I'd ask you guys in the chat audience here, or chat participants here, if there was a particular subject, they'd like to discuss, because if not, I'd like to talk about forgiveness of yourself. But if somebody else has something else they'd like to talk about, I'm open to that too. Oh, hello. Plant Freak's here.
Well, I do owe our own Tara an apology for using her as I probably should not have used her for an example for love bombing, because that can be, I was thinking about that, could be triggering for, I mean, I imagine she's, I imagine that could be triggering to use for some people. So in the future, I will use emoji poop or my beanie baby dog. So yes, I just wanted to get that out of the way with.
Well, Ben, I appreciate the sentiment. It was not necessary. I was not triggered by that. I've undergone so much therapy at this point that I'm not really triggered too much by anything these days, which I'm happy to report that. But I do appreciate the sentiment. Thank you.
Cool.
Hello, Shannon Smith. Okay, it's working now over here. I don't know what it is, but sometimes the chat won't even show for me in Restream. Like the first few posts won't show up, and then it'll start showing up. It's weird.
Yeah.
So, Plant Freak, I was asking if anybody had a particular topic they'd like to discuss, and if not, I thought we'd talk about forgiving ourselves.
You know what? I'm on board for the forgiving ourselves. I really am, because I feel like that's a super important topic.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And if you guys see me looking a little spacey, it's because I am. I am on a new medication. So I am feeling a little bit spacey. Hopefully that won't last too long.
No, and they said it would take a few weeks before everything kind of normalized a little bit, I guess you could say.
Well, yeah, a few weeks for me to start seeing the results. I'm taking it for ADHD and anxiety.
Okay.
So
you went through, they agreed on the ADHD feeling?
Yeah. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and of course, she did say that trauma factors in, So anyway, so if I'm looking off into space, forgive me.
We'll snap you back. We'll bring you back to reality.
Yeah. So yeah, that is one of the hardest things to do, is forgiving ourselves.
I agree.
And I have to confess that I haven't mastered it. There's things that I haven't forgiven myself for, things that I have, and it's, I've heard people say, somebody that's your dear friend, what would you say to your dear friend? Especially if they were remorseful for something they did or said. You love them, and that there's more to the relationship, that it's not a relationship ending thing. You forgive them. There's still maybe a process to trusting, or or whatever it is. There's still maybe a process for you know, whatever the thing was, but you know, so that's, it is helpful and it's not, because how do you know, it's yourself, you know?
So something that I was taught in the last few months is when I'm having a hard time forgiving myself or being compassionate to myself, I'll write down on a piece of paper and I'll split it in half. What is it that I'm personally saying to myself? What's the script that I'm reciting? Okay.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, what would I tell my best friend? What would I tell my family member? That way I can see the major difference and the major disconnect between what I'm telling myself and what I would tell somebody else. And then I do my best to apply what I would tell somebody else to me.
Yeah.
That rooster sounds wonderful. So that's been helping me. It's still, I would say I picked up that tool about 4 months ago, and it's still something that's not quite natural, but it's helpful. And I still have to go through the process of, what am I saying to myself? What would I tell somebody else? And I have to visually see it to be able to actually apply it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, I mean, and you know within yourself whether or not you're remorseful over a situation. You wouldn't need to forgive yourself if you weren't.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and yeah. You know, and in the meantime, what do you do when you haven't been able to make that connectivity between what you would tell the friend and what you would tell and what you tell yourself?
Yeah.
You know?
I think for me, self-care.
Like what kind of self-care?
Oh, all of it. So from exfoliating my feet, I got this really cool new, it's called a Swedish flower. My mom recommended it to me on Amazon. It's only a few bucks, and or clover, not flower, Swedish clover. And it really exfoliates the feet nicely. The shape of it is perfect for the foot. There's 2 sides. So I think, you know, self-care can look like a lot of different things. It can look like yoga. It can look like manicuring the body. It can look like a walk, you know, around the block, or a walk on the beach, or journaling. I think is I would put it into that category. And I think journaling, like, since you're having a response to that, could be a great place to work out what your thoughts would be on telling a friend something.
Yeah.
On behalf of yourself, type of thing, and then reading that advice to them, to yourself. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's not one that I've actually used before, self-admittedly. I like that concept though, Stasia, to think about what you would tell a friend and then flip the script. And it seems that a journal would be a good place to get that out.
Yeah, I have a specific journal for that, to be honest. The pages have been folded, so I have my 2 columns. You know, I have like 4 different journals on the go right now, but a journal helps a lot with that. And then I did need to say, Tara, you forgot one of your self-care things, your hot coffee in your Yeti.
The coffee, you know what? It's actually tea today. I have tea,
Oh!
and it is hot. Ginger turmeric. I did forget one thing, though. You prompted me to remember food, you know, nutrition. It's really hard for me to remember to eat well or to get enough calories if I'm super stressed out or emotional over something. So I would say food and nutrition. For me, it's getting enough calories is a huge part of my self-care.
Mm-hmm.
Right on. Rebecca Immerfall, what do you do when it seems impossible to tell myself what I would tell someone else and mean? I'm going to assume that means mean it, you know? And Shannon Smith says, I'm harder on myself than I would be to my friend. Yeah. That's the kicker, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's such a beautiful idea, Stasia. It's genius, really, to think about what you would say to a friend. I will have to try that next time I'm having a rough time.
Yeah. And then, like, I'm typing it out. I may as well just say it outright. Rebecca had asked what happens when it's impossible to do that for yourself. So in the beginning, I would role play that I was that friend because I could not say those positive things to myself. So I would role play in my head that I was that friend.
Yeah.
I'm at the point now, though, that I realize the old me is dead, and the old me was not capable of saying something nice to myself.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
the new me with this blank piece of paper, I'm choosing to be nice to myself. So I'm trying to visualize that blank piece of paper to say, okay, this is my goal. My intention is to never treat myself like that again. And I'm trying my best to take out the words, I'm never going to do that again, or this will never happen again, because I can't control every environment around me. All that I
Right.
can say is that I don't intend for that to happen again, or I don't intend to treat myself like that again.
Yeah.
Now it's taken about 4 months though of continually, I would say every other day I'm doing something with that description that I had given, the what am I telling myself and what would I tell somebody else?
Yeah.
So it's a lot of practice, but in the beginning, role playing that I was that friend versus being myself helped a lot.
Okay. Right on.
Yeah.
So that really works. Okay. I guess it's a
For me,
matter of
anyway.
really, having that conversation with that friend.
Yeah.
I was just thinking along those same lines, like, would it be helpful if let's say I got stuck on that because I was just in such a rut that I couldn't even think from that positive perspective of what I might say to a friend? Like, what could it be? Would it be useful or not productive to reach out to, say, my best friend who always has my back and see what she has to say? Or is this really an exercise that I would benefit most from by trying to do it independently without anybody's help?
In the beginning, I was talking to people first before being able to do it for myself. I have a Facebook chat group with a whole bunch of people from the last 11 years that I've reconnected with, and people that I've discovered or tribe, and I call it Stasia's Inner Circle. So when I have a really, really bad moment, I message in there, because if I reach out to one person, I have a hard time reaching out to the rest of the people.
Mm-hmm.
I've been I've already asked for help, but then there's 15 different opinions in that group. There's 15 different mindsets in that group, so that when I'm struggling, I get all of those mindsets thrown at me. I've asked for it, but they're all coming my way. And then I get to pick and choose which portions of what that I'm going to take. You know what I mean? So I think reaching out is a good way to start.
Yeah, because the
think
people that you trust and that care about you will tell you what you would tell your friend.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And some of them were telling me these things years ago. I just wasn't ready to listen to it.
Yeah.
So
Boots, I really remember to tell myself. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I have to get them to repeat it, because the mind frame that I was in then versus the mind frame I'm in now, I hear different things.
Yeah.
My best friend often tells me that I'm overthinking things. So maybe I need to think about that.
Yep.
Like Boots, I rarely remember to tell myself what I'd tell a friend. Yeah. And Jill Anderson says, I'm better at making mistakes. And sometimes, Shannon Smith says, sometimes we need to be our own best friends. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're trying to be a better version of yourself, then why can't you cut yourself the same slack that you'd cut somebody else?
We're our own worst enemy.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if anybody. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Stasia.
I was just going to say, we judge ourselves harder than anybody else would judge us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my standards for myself, as Ben has so graciously pointed it out before, my standards for myself are way higher than my standards for other people. So we are our own worst critic, and I don't think I'm alone in that. I don't think I'm
I don't think
alone
so
in
either.
setting my
Yeah.
own standards higher.
You're definitely not alone in that.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, Misha. We need to be kind to ourselves, Mayonnaise Entertainment. Yeah.
I remember when I started going through a confidence reboot to build my self confidence, which is it's a program and it also has a lot of hypnosis. But one of the exercises I remember was hearing you can learn to forgive yourself like you forgive others, and it was only a couple years ago. But to me, that was so alien sounding. I was thinking, what the hell is that? And it just occurred to me that, at that point, that if I couldn't even imagine what that looked like no wonder why I'm so effed up. That was like, wow, that was just, it was a major, I don't know, paradigm shift for me at that point.
Wow.
Mhm.
How did you reconcile it?
I just kept working through it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
There's a, part of it where it's like anything else, especially with hypnosis, if you're trying to, well, actually, not just hypnosis, with a lot of things, you just work and work and work. Um, Limiting beliefs are another one where you have them on the wall. You're constantly looking at them and mocking them, and takes years. So, yeah.
This reminds me a lot of what we were talking about yesterday, regret. And the reason it reminds me of that is because my perspective is that these things are a process, and it's not linear. It's not something that you just get to and we're forgiving ourselves or
Yeah.
not regretting. Yeah, there's no magic wand, I don't think, or if there is, I really want one, but
Yeah.
it's
Right.
something that I have to continuously do when things come up. Although I've been working with my therapist for quite some, well, therapists plural, for quite some time, but this one in particular that I work with now, I've been with her for over a year, and we've done so much deep work together that I feel a large majority of the things that used to trigger me and bring up um, difficult memories of, the not being able to forgive myself. Like, I went into a story yesterday about, the biggest regret of my life. And I think self-forgiveness is a part of that journey. Like, if I'm going to get over regret, then I have to forgive myself, because regret is a part of something. It's a part of that thing that needs to be forgiven. So these things go very hand in hand, and I think they're a process.
Do you know if the person has forgiven you?
He has reached out to me on different social media platforms a few times over the last decade or so, and it's always like we get a conversation going and then he drops off. I don't know that he'll ever be able to. He might have forgiven me, but I don't think he'll ever forget. And I don't blame him. If somebody did that to me, like, I would never forget either. And
Right.
I wouldn't, like, he's always the one that reaches out, but then it's like it stops, which makes me sad, but I've also kind of let it go. Well, not kind of, I have let it go at this point and realize, it's a decision that I made. Go ahead.
If you were in that position, would you forgive you? The person that did that? Would you be able to?
I would. I think yeah. I've been on the flip side before, and I absolutely forgive. I tend to forget a little too easily too, and I'm like, my friends are like, "Oh, do you remember what he did to you?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah," but I don't care. Like, I want to move on from it. But in his case, I think he's forgiven and not forgotten. And honestly, I wish that I could be better about not forgetting, because there's certain people in my life where I know I'm better off without them in it. But I do kind of not, I don't know if fantasize is the right word, but I think sometimes to myself, if they were to come back, how would I respond? And I think I would welcome them back with open arms. But that's like, that's forgiving and forgetting. And I think sometimes it's actually better for our mental health to forgive but not forget.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I can see what you're saying.
Ben, you're
there.
muted.
Yeah, you're muted, Ben.
I mean, oh, isn't that pleasant? I was just going to say, keep opening yourself up to the same trauma again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Rebecca, how do you figure that you don't have anything to give to help others? You help me all the time.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
That's that for a friend right now in my head. You're having a bad day.
Yeah.
Bad days will come, unfortunately. The thing keeping me going is knowing that tomorrow can be better. Exactly. I'm so sorry.
And it's okay. It's okay.
Right now, Rebecca.
And it's okay to not be okay. And I've heard you say that to people. I don't know if you've used that phrase in particular, but we all go through it. You know, we all go through those tough days, and that's what we're here for, to support each other through those.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And as much as you right now don't feel like you've helped people, like Carol said, you help Carol every single day. And in our own little niche of the world, Rebecca, you've helped me immensely try and sort all of that out after my past experience, which I'm beyond grateful, because I would have just run away from it. And it's a part of me.
Yeah. Yeah. And Rebecca, remember when I wasn't sure how I was going to pay for my retest, if I did have to pay for that, and you offered to help. And thank God, it ended up working itself out. But you really stepped up to the plate and were willing to help me out if I needed it. And I really appreciate that.
Yeah. I know some is trauma and cult stuff. I was told it was better to give than receive. I wasn't supposed to even be a taker, ever be a taker. Well, the double-edged sword to that passage is it doesn't say don't receive. It says it's better to give than to receive, but it doesn't say that you can't receive.
Mm-hmm.
They don't throw that in there very much.
Yeah, and how are we supposed to fill ourselves up? Because sometimes it's really, really hard to fill our pots by ourselves, like you're having right now. It's hard to tell yourself the positive dialogue. It's at this point time for you to receive, to help fill up your pot. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not taking. It is not taking. Not when it's being willingly offered.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Ben.
No, I insist.
An old adage from AA, I don't praise them often, but when I do, they used to say something like, thank God we're not all crazy on the same day, right? It's like, we give to each other. Some days are better than others for me, and I come to you and I cry about it and y'all help me. And some days I have it to give. More days than not these days, I have it to give. So I'm glad you're sharing this with us, Rebecca.
I'm writing that down because that might actually be another tattoo idea.
Taking care of yourself.
Dirty Mouse. Hello, Dirty Mouse. Welcome. I have to say I'm usually a lurker, but had to say the notification for this came at such a low point today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. Let us know what we can do to help.
Yeah. Taking care of yourself, Rebecca, can be seen as taking. You can't always afford just to give. And
That's right.
I know that mindset, because if it's hammered into you the way I've seen it hammered into many people, you're constantly giving, and then to not give is somehow harmful. The thing is, you can't. None of us can. You can't put yourself in that position. You need something coming in. So.
Yeah, it's like a bank account. You make deposits and withdrawals, both. It goes both ways.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just try only breathing out sometimes. See how that works
No,
for you.
thank you. No, thank you. Can
I
I
tend to
pass?
pass out when I do that.
Very
Yeah.
fast. Very
There's
fast.
no scenario where that's a good thing.
No.
This is
No.
not medical advice. Not medical advice.
It's not medical advice. Do not try breathing out constantly.
Yeah. Just to be clear. Yeah.
There is some truth to that, Crystal. The thing is, the more you give, the more you get back. It's just how it all works. You know,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times that is true. Not always. There are times when it's the more you give, the more drained you get, because it depends on what the receiver is doing with what's being given.
I really think.
If
Go
there's an
ahead.
interacting relationship going on there. You're really what now?
I really think that there's something to be said for the steps, like regardless of one's feelings about the anonymous groups and organizations, the steps bring you through your own stuff. It's like that there's a phrase that they use to sum up the 12 steps in 3 parts. It's trust God or your higher power, trust your higher power, clean house, serve others. And I think we have to go through the cleaning house part and trusting either a higher power or trusting ourselves or whatever it is for us personally. We have to go through that process of building a relationship with ourselves, cleaning out our own brains so that we can serve other people. And there's nothing. So often they call it two-stepping. You've all probably heard this, but it's when people try to go from step 1, acknowledging that there's a problem, to step 12, which is service to others, without doing all the stuff in between. That's called two-stepping. And it's a miserable failure for everyone that I've seen try that. If they don't go through the process of cleaning out their own stuff, then they have nothing to give. And I'm certainly not suggesting that anybody here hasn't gone through the healing process correctly. It's a process, and we all have bad days, even if we've done the work. It's just, I think there's something to be said for focusing on ourselves when necessary so that we can get back to service to others.
Yeah. Let's see. Misha says, I get that, Rebecca. Now we are all rediscovering ourselves now. All that conditioning no longer belongs to you. You are always the one who greets and makes us feel so welcomed and loved. When we run out of all but the last drop of us, it gets scary. Yeah. It's just like you said, what do you have to give if you haven't, taken care of that house cleaning? Some days I can't take enough for me. Dirty Mouse says, put that up there. I pet the dog, I worked out and just cried the whole time. I'm sorry you're having a hard day.
Yeah. Something I'm just going to type it out, but again, I'll just say it via voice. Dirty Mouse, I've definitely been there. I understand the feeling. I think we all have.
Yeah.
Something that's assisted me is I plan an hour a day for myself now, and I break it up into 4 15-minute intervals. Those 15 minutes, I am not exercising, although I do every single day now. I'm not exercising. I'm not journaling. I'm not doing anything but figuring out what's going to make me feel happy for that moment. For example, I took care of my hands today. I gave myself a little manicure. I sat out in the sun for a while and read my book. Those things help fill me up just a little bit. And when I'm able to break it down into little 15-minute increments, that 1 hour doesn't seem so big. For me, that 1 hour is like, oh my God, that's big, that's scary. So I have to break it down into smaller intervals.
Yeah. Love this from Jill Anderson. Vessels that only give can only collapse. Vessels that only take burst. but a vessel that can give and take keeps form. I love that.
I love that.
Really love that.
Yeah.
I like that too a lot, Jill. And I like what you just said too, Stasia. I didn't chime in because I was wrapping my head around the whole breaking an hour into 15 minutes. I like that a lot too.
I like it too.
Yeah, the 1 hour, somebody had told me 1 hour a day. I can't even remember which social worker at this point because there's been so many involved, but one of them said you need an hour a day to yourself because you're spending 9 hours a day on the phone trying to get the next process started, doing meetings, doing all of these other things, and you're focusing so hard on the situation, so hard on trying to get through it and being happy. This forces me to be mindful. And when I was trying to put the 1 hour, it was literally so big and scary I couldn't do it. So then once I broke it down, I tried 30 minutes. It was still too big and scary. So then like the 15-minute intervals help. If you have to break it down into, a bunch of 5-minute intervals throughout the day, then break it down to 5-minute intervals. Whatever's not scary to you, but you need to take that time.
Yeah. Sometimes the more you give, the more the person wants to take. It's okay when there is equality and equity in a relationship and friendship because both want to give as much as they can. Yeah. Yeah. That is really good.
Rebecca, shower does consider time for yourself completely. That's to me self-care.
Yep, 100%.
Even if I'm just standing in the shower with the hot water or cold water, whatever it is that floats your boat, just beating down on you, then that's self-care. Just like Tara's hot tea.
Cheers.
And Cosmic says, if I'm not of service, I'm not okay. It's when I'm helping others that I'm at my best and feeling my best because I'm not focusing on the stuff I've been through. That's true. There's a lot of truth to that. Yeah.
Hey, the self-care, I think, could fall in that category too. You're being of service to yourself. It kind of goes back to the topic today, that self-forgiveness. It's a form of self-care, I think.
Yeah.
How long can you keep flogging yourself for something that you can't change?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
When I worked as an engineer in industry, the medical device industry, I had this, he wasn't my boss, but he was like in charge of the department that I worked for. And his office was right behind, I had a cubicle at the time, and his office was right behind it. And I was really beating myself up because I sent an email with a mistake in it prematurely. And I was like, it wasn't a bad enough mistake to where I needed to inform the person I had made a mistake, but it was just like bad enough to where it was embarrassing, and I told him what happened. I was like, I made this mistake in this email. It doesn't change our plan, but it's just embarrassing. He's like, can you do anything to change it now? And I said, well, no. And he's like, well, then let it go. And that was it. And that really helped change my mindset. Like, there was nothing I could do about it, unless it would have been more embarrassing it was like a typo or something, but it was like an embarrassing typo. And if I would have, they might have not even noticed it. But if I sent an email being like, sorry about that typo, they definitely would have noticed it, and it would have made it worse. So no, there was nothing I could do about it. And so let it go.
Yeah.
Did I ever tell you about S-Head Drive? Okay, I was making a database of all the roads in a particular county. And I made a little database script that you could separate roads out for this road's in this grid, this road's in this grid. Real simple little thing. Well, part of it is I need some test records. Well, you can only type first, second, third, fourth, Bob Street. You can only type names like that for so long. So I typed up the name S head drive, but it wasn't S, it was actually spelled out. I had a few of these in there. Tamale, I got some creative ones. Tamale Trail, I'm still proud of. But yeah, there was S head drive. Okay, well, I'm supposed to go through and kill them out. Well, um, so went through, with tests. Okay, it's all tests. Okay, and S head drive had a grid of 0. It was just a test record. But every time we did this, we never did for a grid of 0, except years later, the state wanted every single road in the county. And so, okay, all no, all grids. Well, all includes 0. So anyhow, my boss walks in one day and says, "Ben, how did you know my name in high school?" What are you talking about? It says right here, you know, S head drive. And I was like, "Oh my God." He's like, "Don't worry about it." Like, "No, but it's to the state of Arizona. Oh my God." And he's like, "Bah, they won't care." And it's like, "Oh yeah, the change, bah. If you worry too much." But yeah. So I've done far worse typos, I think. That wasn't even a typo. That was intentional, but just I forgot to delete it.
This question of Rebecca's that is a really good point about the smaller intervals. My chronic fatigue and brain fog is really bad today. I can do 15 minutes. Does a shower count as time for myself? I can do 5 minutes. A shower absolutely counts as time for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. It's one of the better things you can do for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing what all gets clean when you're cleaning. Anyway, like I get some of my best thinking done in the shower.
I have heard other people say that before. I don't experience that personally. It's so interesting though. My best friend talks about how she takes a shower every day and imagines, I don't shower every day, by the way, but she does. And she says she imagines the negative energy being washed off of her when she showers. I think that's interesting.
Water in general is a reset for me. So pools, not so much. Lakes or rivers, especially. I've got 7 days of rain coming, and I'm super excited because I wouldn't say that I'm 100% back to normal. I definitely feel better after venting last night, getting some advice, doing some meditation, but I need my reset. And if I can go for a long walk in the rain, that's perfect. That's absolutely perfect for me. I used to lay out on the lawn, on my grandmother's lawn as a child, and just feel the rain hit my face. Like sometimes it would really hurt, but I would just feel the rain hit my face, and that was enough for me to feel like my anger is gone. I'm okay. So yeah, water. That was the point. Water.
Hey, Christy.
Rick Spicer. Plant.
Hi.
If stress was a 12 slice pie, you seem like you have 4 taken care of, less stressed and ones, Rebecca. I like seeing the panels. Pretty stuff.
Hi.
Crafty stuff. Okay.
I wanted to say about the with Rebecca and myself being, I call it the Ouroboros of care. Helping others helps me because then I'm focusing on other people, and also especially now that I'm an advocate for all these particular things like disability, DV, and all that sort of stuff. Being that helps me see other people's stories and know that it makes self-forgiveness a lot easier because when you know you're not the only person out there who's struggling with these sort of issues, it's you forgive yourself because I'm constantly telling other people that it's not their fault. So if it's not their fault, it wasn't my fault either. And and it really does help. And I think in lots of ways, it's actually taken away any need for me to even think about self-forgiveness because I'm not thinking about it constantly anymore. I mean, there's certain things that I'm not happy about, like my pictures being out there and all that sort of stuff, but that's nothing. I can't do anything about it. So I'm not sitting here being miserable. And I'm
Right.
actually not thinking about it, you know. If it comes up, it comes up, and it has come up. But it's just like, I'll deal with it when it comes. I'm not going to sit here waiting for it to happen. And that's a large part of that is it wasn't my fault. So
No,
I don't have
that
to.
isn't your fault.
Yeah. So, and
Exactly.
if it's not your fault, then it's easier to forgive yourself, even if you think that perhaps it wasn't so great that you got yourself into that situation. It doesn't matter. You're not responsible for what other people do, you know, how other people act and think. It's up to everybody to be responsible and accountable for their own actions. And people who are abusive and all that sort of stuff, they're not going to be. So, and I think a lot of ways self-forgiveness comes when you recognize that you're never going to get any kind of closure from them. Not in the way that you're not going to understand why they did it. They're not going to say this is why. So in a lot of ways, you know, and this is true of anyone who has been a perpetrator. In the majority of cases, they're not going to think that they ever did anything wrong. So,
Which is incredulous.
Yeah, I know, right? Isn't it? I mean, even if they go to jail and they're there for 20 years, they're like, oh, well, I find it, I struggle to believe that people who, those horrendous crimes can actually ever come to terms with it themselves. Because if they did, how would they ever want to be around in their own brain anymore? So they must have to justify it in their own heads to actually even want to exist. You know, so
maybe so.
Yeah.
I think that's where it becomes easier for them to project the blame.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and if we sort of put up that shield of not our fault, you know, the blame can't come towards us as easy. You know, we've got to put up that shield.
Yeah.
I still struggle with that one. It's something that you had said to me early on, Cosmic, when we first met, actually. And it's really stuck with me. I keep trying, you know, it's not natural to me yet, but to say, this wasn't my fault. I can only work on, you know, going a step further, I can only work on my personal reactions in that situation. So what would I do next time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's still hard sometimes because I want the answers. I want to know why.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's human nature or if that's just me overthinking and not wanting to accept the situation.
I want to know why. I wanted to know why. I ask. I even went and asked someone years and years later. I mean, I was kind of made to by my little cult. But, you know, I still wanted to know why. I didn't get an answer other than basically I made him that way.
Yeah.
But so, and you know, the only person I actually really truly want an answer from, I can't get it because he's gone. And I guess that's kind of what made me understand that you have to sort of let some things go, because you just have to let some things go, and it's really, really hard. And I think maybe I find a little bit easier because I have been compartmentalizing. Sorry, I'm struggling to breathe. I've got this lung infection now. So excuse me. Yeah, so I find it because I've been through so much, I've had to compartmentalize from a very young age. It's a skill I learned very young. So, because otherwise I'd be a miserable person all the time. So, but I find that it probably makes things a little bit easier for me. It does make it easier for me to put things aside and help other people instead of focusing on my own stuff. And I wouldn't say it's a completely healthy way of dealing with stuff either. So, but it is what it is, and it's how I've done it. So I think whatever's got you to this point today, right here in this moment, is a good thing because you're here, right here in this moment. So I think whatever you've done to this point's worked, even if it doesn't feel like it has.
Right on.
I like that.
I like that too.
I like it too because it acknowledges that we're all individual, and what works for me is not necessarily going to be what works for other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's true of everything, you know, like if grief is different for everybody, trauma, you know, joy, it's all different, and everyone expresses it in different ways and gets through things in different ways. And as long as you're getting through it, you're doing it. So I guess I think of it like, you know, me and the way I do dishes. I'm very particular about dishes and the way I stack the dishwasher, and I wouldn't let anyone do it for many, many years. And until I got to the point where, you know, as long as it's done, it's okay. And I think that's kind of the way things should be. You know, as long as you get through it, it's okay. You know, and it may not have been in good ways and all that sort of stuff. And look, I know that some of the ways we get through things have led us to be in groups like this. So, but at least we're here. You know, we got through it. So I don't know, and I'm just feeling very profound this morning. Been up for been up for a little while, and and Rebecca, you've got to remember too that depression is a side aspect of chronic fatigue. So when you're having flare-ups, it's natural to feel a little bit sadder than usual. It may not be anything that's even going on. It's just something that comes along with chronic fatigue, unfortunately.
And it sounds like you did a lot of productive things yesterday, Rebecca, based on the comment that I saw from you last. So I just made a comment. Sometimes I have to do nothing. And even though it's nothing and it seems unproductive, it's something, and that can be recharging. Just rather than trying to figure out what I need to do, just doing nothing.
Yeah.
For my job today, I had to go into a drug house. There was a girl there who was really trying to clean for me. I look at her and just asked her how she was doing and told her how great it looked. Oh,
wow.
You never know the impact that that's going to have.
Yeah.
You know, because you get so far out there from reality, away from reality in situations like that. And that just bringing that back to just a normalcy, to reality could have been a spark.
Mm-hmm.
Let's hope so.
Mm-hmm.
Pray so even.
Yeah.
Hello, full of hope. Hello, Don Gloves. Yes, I'm sorry you're having a hard day. Seems to be some of that going around. She looks surprised I cared about her. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Goes
That
a
kind of
long way.
Huge.
It really does.
Mm-hmm.
Something that I try and teach my kids, you know, if you're out and about and you're hold the door for somebody, smile at them. It's the smallest little things, but you don't know whose day it's going to make. You don't know who's going to feel better because of it. It could be all 10 people that you did it to that day. It could be one, but you made a difference in somebody's life.
Right on.
I'm sorry. What was that? Out and about. Can you say that again?
Out and about. Out and about.
Sorry, I had to race back from the bathroom. Sorry. Not sorry.
I love it. It's all good.
But yeah,
I think that's great. And I actually go around complimenting people. You know, if I compliment their, you know, never on looks. It's always on like outfits and shoes. Sorry, especially women. I love to compliment women because it's like, I don't know. I know when I get a compliment from a woman, I feel it more because it's not coming from someone who I think might want more or something from me. So I just go, I give it back, and it's something that I just love to do, and it makes me feel good. And sometimes it happens to me all the time. I get people say they love my boots or they love my dress because I wear this big blonde flowy sunflower dress, and it's something that it brightens a day. And I think it should go around more, and more people should do it. I mean, there's some places you walk around, it doesn't look friendly at all. I mean, it looks like you can't even talk to people because they're all walking around frowning. So I try and pick out someone who looks a little bit hip and, you know, someone who kind of vibes with my style or whatever. And then I'll pick them because otherwise I don't want my trying to be nice to reflect back on me in a way that's negative. So then I might stop doing it. So it's always a choice of who you do it to as well.
And that's the
Okay.
truth, because when I moved here, the culture is so different. I started complimenting or speaking to the wrong people, and then I lost my confidence in doing so. I lost the strength to be able to do it. And now I don't even open my mouth with words because they're going to come out English. So I don't do that. And I just smile at people and open doors now. But positive note, and don't think I've shared this with you guys yet. I start French classes.
Ooh,
Nice.
Yes. So it's going to be French as a second language, but I have the option of like becoming completely fluent through this program. So
Right,
I
that's
start
awesome.
tomorrow.
Ooh. How do you know how long until you become fluent?
This is like a distance education, so it's all on my time frame.
Mhm.
It looks like there's about 30 modules, and I'm going to try and complete 2 modules, within a week. I'm giving myself a small number to start because I don't want to overwhelm myself and be like, oh, I didn't complete a module a day. You know what I mean? So I'm giving myself 2 modules a day or a week. So it should put me at about 5 months by the time that I'm completely fluent.
Cool.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. Or sooner. Depends on how quickly I can get through it.
Right on.
Yeah.
The people I try complimenting on, sorry, I just did a couple more decent sipping things. That man there, he's of the devil. But yeah, I try to concentrate on waitresses and checkout people. And those are 2 people that if you want to make the minimum investment as far as compassion, just saying something good that will give you the maximum amount of return, those are 2 people that will
Did you have something
definitely
spicy?
react.
Yeah, you said eat something spicy, and I just noted the timestamp so I can clip that. I've been waiting for this moment.
Anyone who does fast food or in the service industry, people who are doing retail, anything like that, because they cop it really hard a lot of the time, for things that aren't even their fault. So I'm always particularly nice to anyone who's service workers and all that sort of stuff as well. Especially, except for at McDonald's, because if they get my order wrong, I'll definitely go back and be a Karen because I worked there for many years, so I want my order in a particular way. And I'm just helping them. I'm always polite about it though, and I don't ever want them to do anything extra. I just want them to put the pickles on because I asked for extra pickles. Thanks.
And I feel inspired to say all of this talk about compliments and being kind to other people is not to be confused with love bombing, like we were talking about yesterday.
Yes.
And like the major difference that I think love bombing, I think I said it yesterday, but love bombing is just so widely used now. And almost it's been used in a joking way so that people have like widened the definition of it, but there is ill intent behind it. That's the biggest factor when you're defining love bombing. I just want to make sure that we make that clear, because I don't want people to feel like they're love bombing and stop sharing positive emotions and feelings with people. So Tara, good point.
Yeah, I was just going to say good point to you, Stasia. Good point.
I love bomb like a bath bomb. You want it because it's like it's nice and it makes you feel better, but it's not. You just get out and leave the water there. So I don't expect to follow you home or anything like that. But because I'm full of love and it's got nowhere to go. So I'm just going around, and that's why I say I love you to everyone, because anyone who comes into my life and makes an impact, I do love, because they're all special. But yeah, what Shannon said about don't say they look tired is a good one. So because that's not a compliment.
Yeah, it's like it makes you go, thanks.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Well, the thing I like about making over-the-top examples like I did yesterday is it will stand out in somebody's head. It will, and that sometimes it takes really melodramatic examples like that. But I've seen some examples of it where you could not melodramatize. How do you use that word as a verb? You couldn't make them more melodramatic than they're already used. I mean, sometimes it's so over the top that good God.
He's still
Sorry
dying
about
a little
that.
bit. Give him a
Yeah.
second. He's still dying.
But see, the thing is, and it's something that's it's so out of it that you could only think could ever happen in a movie, and that's why lots of people don't come forward about it, because it's like no one's going to believe me because it seems so unreal.
I didn't believe myself.
Yeah,
I didn't trust what I was thinking, because I'm like, no, this doesn't happen. This isn't real. You know,
that's what I was thinking as well. Like all the way through it, I'm like, this isn't happening. You know, this is like this happens to people in movies. Doesn't happen to me. You know,
yeah.
But then I look back at everything that's ever happened, and it all could be a movie.
Yeah.
It's just, but that's true of everybody's life, you know, except for if you're, I don't know, but even someone who's incredibly boring would have that. I'd love to watch that movie because I don't know what that's like.
Yeah.
But it would be, but you know, I think everybody's life is extraordinary, and it does, especially when you go through things that you'd never think that you would go through. It just feels unreal, and not in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
Good point.
I'm going to cut in here really, really quick. I've got recovery management coming up in 20 minutes, so I'm going to try and get some food in me, go to the next one, and then I'll see you guys tomorrow.
You give them what
Anastasia.
for. You let them you let them know who it is they're dealing with.
They
And
know. They know.
If they give you any crap, you tell them you know the owner of California right there.
The owner of California. Love you guys. Thank you so much. Bye.
Love you too.
Love you.
I love what Kristen Melinda said about when people say that you look tired. She said, now I just say, and you put it up already, Carol, you said, now I just say, oh, that makes sense because I am tired. That's brilliant. I love that. I'm going to borrow that if it's all right, Kristen.
If a movie were made of my life, I'd probably leave out the waiting in lines part.
And Misha, you know, just because someone calls you something doesn't mean that you are. In a lot of cases, they're projecting.
Yeah.
I think some people actually mean well too. Like, I think some people just don't think before they speak. You know,
I don't know, calling someone a narcissist is kind of not meaning well. It's never in a good light. Like, I've never sort of sat down with someone and they've told me something that they think that something's wrong with me, and it's been in a calm, cool, collected manner. Except for when my friends told me that I needed to get my shit together as far as alcoholism. But every other time, you know, it's like, you're so bipolar, or you're this, you're that. It's never in a cool, calm, nice way, and a helpful. They're not trying to help. They're trying to hurt. And that's yeah. And that it's a context of things. But I understand what you're saying. Like, in general, most of the time people are trying to be helpful and they just don't think about the consequences of how much their words are going to hurt somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So
a lot of people are clumsy, and a lot of times it's pretty easy to tell. I know that I tend to be clumsy with words. I don't always think through what I say. A lot of people with ADHD, their brain will outrun their mouth, and you start skipping words and saying things like, oh, honey, that's a great outfit. You don't look half as bad as that as you did the other thing. Like,
didn't have to say all. Yeah. But see, I find, that's exactly right. Like, if I get excited, I'll skip words and I'll have to get everything out, or upset, or if I'm trying to explain myself because someone's got the wrong idea about what I'm trying to say, it starts to become harder to get it out because it takes a little while. I have to think about what is going to come out of my mouth before it comes out, so it comes out in the right way. Otherwise, it's going to come out in ways that I don't even understand half the time. And but there's a difference between, say, if I really need to talk to somebody, a person, about relationship, like feeling type things, like I'm hurt or whatever, I end up having to do it through text majoritively so that I can write it down and take my time and get it right and the words right and all that sort of stuff. Because otherwise, if I stand in front of someone and try and say, this is what's happening, it doesn't come out in the right way. And I always end up seeming more upset than I am because I don't like confrontation. And it always feels confrontational. You know?
If I may, the comment that you have up right now, Carol, Rebecca's, Ned pointed it out too. Awakened, Misha pointed this out too. I call her Ned. So Rebecca says, "I'm sorry that happened to you. You can only be yourself. You are worthy and wonderful just as you are." And I thought to myself, Rebecca, what if you took that last word or that last sentence and switched out the "use" for "I"? How would that feel? So Rebecca says to Rebecca, "I am worthy and wonderful just as I am." How would that feel?
Yeah.
And that's why she owns California.
Look out, Governor Newsom.
Yeah. Do you see what you just did, Rebecca? Yeah, for real. Take this in, Rebecca. Do you see what you just did, Rebecca Merfall? You are feeling like you are, but you still care enough to build me up. I love it. Thank you for being so very special and kind.
That's right.
Yeah, that is so right. And you are not alone. And I'm glad you don't feel alone, because that sucks to feel that way. I'm glad you feel, not alone.
Yeah, you're definitely not. Ever.
Yeah.
Never.
That's right. You can only be yourself to "I can only be myself," Tony B says. Yeah. Change the line, "You can only be yourself," to "I can only be myself." And that's the truth. I mean, that is one thing that can absolutely ring true to say to yourself. Not everything that you can say to yourself does that. But that one does, because that is all you can be.
Yes. I was going to say something, but I forgot.
We're all here for you. Please remember, I'm just a phone call away. Right on.
That's what I was going to say. I know that coming here every day makes me feel better. Because I didn't know how I was feeling about today. I woke up and I was feeling a bit numb. And then I'm like, I'll just lay in bed for a bit longer. And so I put the meeting on, listened in bed, and I'm like, oh, that's a really interesting topic. And I was like, it actually helped me get up for the day. And so, and so just know that even if you guys aren't feeling particularly great, and, people on the screen and people in the chat, I'm not always active. Like, I'll be listening, but I'm not always in the chat and all that sort of stuff. And just being there, you guys will help. It's a support that I know is there if I reach out and ask for it. And I just think that it's a lovely thing to have, and I really appreciate it. And thanks, Carol, and thanks everyone, and Ben and Tara and everyone in the chat. It's just something that's, I don't know, I can't describe how much it is important, and I couldn't get it anywhere else. I don't know if that makes any sense. So, yeah.
Oh, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about compliments and all that sort of stuff, and it's a genuine one, but it's something that I think everyone should hopefully take in, because it's
right. That's amazing. Well, you guys, have we had a meeting yet, or do we still have more to talk about?
I feel like I've had a meeting. I've got to go anyway, so I love you, and I'll I'll see you tomorrow.
Okay.
Bye.
I'm sorry I called Johnny the devil. He's a wicked man.
Well, when you're on fire, it's kind of easy to say, I guess.
Well, I've got a question before I hop off of here. I'm curious, Carol, now what your perspective on self-forgiveness is. Is it shifted at all, or how are you feeling about it now?
Well, like you say, it's a process. It's all a process, and who knows, maybe talking about it helps. Yeah. There are things that run pretty deep, when you give your own kid up for adoption to people you barely even know, and you find out what a hard time they had growing up in that environment. That's a big one, and it's that thing that you come around to when if you'd known better, you'd have done better. If I'd known I could be a parent with all that I, saw myself in when I was confronted with that, I lived just enough life to know that, when you make your bed, you really do have to lie in it, and it wasn't a good spot for a baby. But I had not lived enough life experience to know that can change, and those are the things that I have to repeatedly remind myself of when I think about it. If I'd known better, I'd have done better. I would have made plenty of mistakes as a parent, but at least I wouldn't have blown up a family to create another family that, who knows if it was a good thing or not. I know it wasn't all bad. Nothing is all bad, but he did have a hard time. Cosmic, I think that he has. I really do. And sometimes that doesn't make it easier, oddly enough.
I wish that I would have been closer with my dad. Growing up, he was in prison all throughout my childhood. And he thought that my stepdad was like a great replacement for him. And I love my stepfather, just like I love my real dad. But my stepdad was not a replacement for my real dad. And I think that it was hard for him to learn also that I had a hard time with my stepdad.
Yeah.
Because I think in his mind, he thought, well, I know because he's told me before that he thought it was a better place for me. And he wanted my stepdad to adopt me at one point, to completely give up his parental rights over me. And I'm so glad that, a 13-year-old shouldn't be making that choice. I can't believe they left that up to me, but I did choose to keep my original last name, which was my dad's last name, and to be able to see him, which didn't happen very often. But I can relate to you in terms of like being that child. Although it wasn't adoption, it was my relationship with my biological father and my stepfather. And I wouldn't ask to change anything, but the point that I wanted to make here was that I would like to work on building a relationship with my dad today.
Yeah.
And as a matter of, go ahead, sorry.
Is he out?
He is, yeah. Okay. And he's doing really well today. He is a heavy drinker still to this day. He has put the illicit drugs down as far as I'm aware of. He looks great. He is a heavy drinker though, and that's kind of hard. I say not a lot of things trigger me these days, but to hear my dad slur his speech is painful still for me. But I would still like to build a relationship with him now. And so I share that because I just wonder if you've had that conversation with your child, or I don't know if you could refer to him as your child or how, but
I do.
is it maybe?
I mean, he's son, and and I've made that very clear to him. I understand that I may not ever be a mom to you. You had a mom growing up, but understand that you will always be my child. You will always be my son. There's nothing that can change that for me. I told him that
I can just say
pretty early on.
Sorry. From my perspective, as a child who was abandoned over and over and over and over and over again by my mother, she forgave herself well before I ever did. But I have truly forgiven her because she was 16. Well, she was 18, 20 when she eventually, figured out that she couldn't deal with me. But I have had to forgive her because she was 16. She was a child. And she was a victim. And so it's a struggle because she still uses her victimhood as a way to be an awful person in some respects. Right? But it's like, I kind of think, well, that's her trauma. I can't take that away. That's the way she deals with it. And she's still a supermassive alcoholic. And it's really hard to talk to her sometimes because she calls me at like 9 o'clock my time. So they're like 2 hours, I think, ahead there. So it must be like 9, 10, maybe 11 o'clock, and she's already drinking red wine and slurring her words. And like Tara said, it is difficult. Because as much as sometimes I'm angry at her, because I have forgiven her for things in the past when I was a child, but now it's the other things she's doing that's annoying. So, but you even wanting to understand your son's perspective on things, Carol, is huge. Because my mum doesn't want to understand mine at all, because it means that she has to look at some of the choices she made and take accountability. And that's something that she really struggles with, because when she takes accountability, I think she hurts herself, and she's been hurt so much that I don't even want her anymore to be hurt or anything like that. I love my mum. I love her deeply. She's my mum. She's annoying. And I don't want to talk to her a lot of the time, but I don't want anything to happen to her, and I want everything to be good. So I just think that it's amazing that you thought you made the best decision, and so did my mum when she eventually left. I think the thing that she stuffed up on was a lie she keeps telling me and herself about the situation. If she was just honest about it, it'd make it a lot easier to deal with. It would make it'd make even dealing with her easier to deal with, because I wouldn't have to try and figure out what she's pretending about things today that I have to fit. So I have to fit into her world. So I don't have to, cause ripples in her world that she has to think about consequences and outcomes of decisions. But if your son forgives you, I understand completely, because as now I'm talking as a parent. I thought I made some really good decisions for my children, as far as, not putting them in the situation that I was in, and I was in a very domestically violent relationship. So I gave them to their father, and things happened there that were possibly worse, because if I had had my kids, I would have had more incentive to leave, instead of just, because I wouldn't have let my kids it doesn't matter what I let myself get put through. I wouldn't let my kids go through that, extended. And I just sort of lost the will. And turns out my kids have a lot to forgive me for. And the only people who can judge me on my parenting are my children. I won't let anybody else. Just like I won't let anybody else judge my mother on her parenting, because she's my parent. So anyone else looking at her and saying she's a bad mum, I will defend her, and I will fight. I will scratch people's eyes out if I have to. And my kids are the same. They're allowed to say whatever they want about me, but no one else is allowed to. So that's something that I really appreciate and I'm happy with. And I just want you'd understand and I hope you understand that if there's love there, there is forgiveness.
Yeah. You know, I'll never forget the first time he told me he loved me. I will never, ever, ever forget that. I mean, that healed a lot of things. It did. I got to say.
And, you know,
You
you
okay,
may
Tara?
never.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that that was in there, but I actually have a therapy session tonight and with my therapist. And so I'm going to bring this up. I'm glad that you brought this topic up and that you're talking about it now, because it did trigger something in me that, wow, I do want a relationship with my dad. It's just, how can I, and this goes for other people too. You know, this might be the missing link behind me feeling comfortable in the water with other people if they're smoking weed. You know, like how can I put myself comfortably around people that I care about and not give a rip what they're doing and the choices that they're making, but still maintain my sobriety. You know,
Yeah.
it's like this could very well be one of the most important conversations that I ever have with my therapist. So I appreciate you bringing it up.
I will be so interested to hear what comes out, what you're willing to share afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would kind of like to know that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Right
I
on.
think the only way I could ever forgive my mother in the end was to think that she is who she is, and you know, people make mistakes, and some people don't learn from them, and they keep making them. But I know that she's not doing it from a nasty place,
yeah.
and I think that helps. You know, she doesn't ever want to hurt me. She just doesn't know better at this point, and that's because I think her emotional growth was stunted at a very young age because of her trauma. So
Yeah.
recognizing her trauma has made understanding her and forgiving her a lot easier, because it's not my place to forgive her for things that happened to, or to forgive for what happened to her, even though I carry it as her child. But it's also not my place to, you know, trying to expect her to live a life that I would rather live. I just have to let her live, and I might not be happy with her decisions, but at least I got her in my life, and that's better than not. And because I had a mother as well, I had a stepmother, and she was my stepmother for 42 years, and she just chose not to because of her religion. So I know what it's like to actually be abandoned by two mothers. And you know, and actually the stepmother one hurt more because she was my mother by choice. And she did it when she was like in her 60s. So she has no real excuse of saying she's a child. I have no excuse for that. So,
Right.
but yeah.
Yeah.
So, it is what it is. So, but yeah. And Tara, I'm glad that you're going to talk with your therapist about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tara.
Yeah. Thank you. I really
saying here, maybe without that pain, none of us would be here at all. That's that could be very well. That could be the truth. And without Tara's pain, could she now be accomplishing such meaningful work?
It's a really thoughtful comment, a Rolling Stone.
Thank you, Rolling Stone. Things do happen that work toward the greater good, even if we don't understand. Yeah. Yeah. For me, I don't think I will ever get resolution from Misha. This is why certain things really hurt me more than most, when there isn't an explanation as to why, or subjects just get dropped off or ignored. Yeah, that's tough. That is tough.
Well, there's another bit, and the other part to that is that when there's nothing I can do or choice in my life because I don't matter enough to stay. And a lot of times I think that's because we think that other people, I think, like I've said before, we're our main players in our own game, and everybody else are NPCs, and that's true of everybody. So they're walking around. Everybody else is walking around controlling their own little life by their own little computer, and you know, I'm the main character in mine.
Yeah.
So everything I think is more important to me, but it's not as important to everybody else. Does that make sense? I've got this whole theory about NPCs in gaming and how it relates to life and all that sort of stuff. It's really interesting, actually.
Right on.
I'll get into another time. But yeah, I find that actually helps a lot, because when I recognize that everyone's playing their own game and trying to win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's so true.
Yeah, and it's just but we need NPCs to help complete the missions. So there's a whole thing, there's a whole theory. I have to write it down so I can get it all straight in my head. But that's
I
actually
hear what you're saying, but I don't know the references.
yes. So that's why I have to write it down so I can refer back to and take it out of gaming speak. But like Misha should understand. She's a gamer as well. But I understand exactly what she's saying, because like I ended up stopped talking about certain things that I find really important because nobody else wants to listen to it anymore. Because it's not their focus, it's not their thing. They've got their own game they're playing. So I just sort of find that it sort of helps, and it doesn't make me feel any less connected as well, because I also recognize that life isn't a game. We're not in the Matrix. I'm not Andrew Tate.
That's debatable. It's debatable.
Well, I don't know what color pill. I always get confused about what color pill I should take. I'd probably take the red one.
The red
I like
one.
blue.
Yeah, I'd take the red one for sure.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I really do have to go this time. I just wanted to talk about the forgiveness of a parent and the aspect of also being a parent who wants forgiveness. So, yeah. All right. We'll talk about it another time though, because I think it's something that we should go into a little bit deeper.
I'd love to hear. I'd love to hear that perspective. I really would.
Yeah, and I'd like to hear yours as well. So, and Misha's as well. So yeah. All right. I love yous again.
Love you.
Deja vu.
And I'll go ahead and roll out too. But I again just want to express some gratitude, Carol, to you for having these meetings and also for being transparent with what you're experiencing, because it brought something up that I didn't even know was in there for me. Wow. So thank you. I'll be working through this tonight. And hopefully we'll live to tell the tale of how we sorted through it. And just as a forewarning, I work tomorrow. I got a new job.
That's right.
I'll be working tomorrow during this meeting. So I don't want y'all to worry that like something happened in therapy and like I don't want to talk about it. That's not the case. I'll probably be here either on Thursday or Friday to give an update, but just I didn't want you to worry about me is all.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. And I hope y'all have a nice day.
You too, Tara. I don't believe in, I want to see if I'm pronouncing this name right. Makhtamir Doshugal. Am I saying that right? I don't believe in wanting to change the past because I am where I am because of it. And I can't know what I would have missed. I love if I changed what I would have missed. I love if I changed that one thing, yeah. Everything is a ripple, and those ripples tend to spread out as they get further out. So, and you never know where they're gonna land and what they're gonna accomplish in their wake. Yeah. Thank you for that. Well,
it's an evil man.
Evil. Are you okay?
I'll be fine. Wow.
Love you too, Misha.
I've been trying to ramp up because I know Lord Kiss Freak is going to come on here at some point. So I've been trying to feel what my limit is. And I kind of stepped beyond it, but this too shall pass. Which is what I'm afraid of. But oh well. But yeah, it is amazing how many people's lives you have touched with your little I shouldn't say little, your platform here. It really is amazing when you get down to it.
Thank you.
Um,
Well, and you guys show up, and and it all work. We all work together to make it an amazing thing. If it was just me up here talking, there wouldn't be this. There wouldn't be this, and that's what makes it pretty special to me. Is that you guys are part of it. It's pretty amazing.
do you have an inside bird or are those outside birds?
Those
Oh.
are outside birds, and I hear one of my kitty cats out there because the kitty cat hears me, and so I don't know which one it is. I don't know if it's the little white female or the little whose name is Kay, or the little yellow tiger kitty whose name is Rigby. But I think it's Kay, because usually when it's Rigby, it's he has very colorful language in his own language.
Well, I do hope all is good on the farm, and I hope the donkey's doing well.
Yeah.
Jet T donkey. Thanks for posting your little short of him. I did finally see that.
Yeah, I need to do more of those. Those are fun and yeah, easy to do. Oh, Kristen, I love that. I love that. Thank you for saying that.
Don't say his name 2 more times or else he'll appear.
Yeah. Thank you, Crystal. You're welcome.
Well, I would consider it a personal favor if you would have a great day.
You too?
Yeah, so go out and say hi to the donkey and chickens for me. And
I will do that.
cool. You take care of
Yeah.
yourself.
You too.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, guys. You guys are so awesome. You are. Oh, okay. I've got some journaling to do, y'all. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of this. I feel like I have very little to do with, this community, because you guys you bring so much, and I thank you for it, and I love you for it, and I just love you. And I hope to see you again next meeting. Until then, y'all, peace, y'all.